Welcome to Find Myself Free, the podcast, where we break up with booze, balance our hormones, and heal from the inside out. I'm Ellie Young, certified alcohol-free life coach and functional nutrition practitioner in training, and I'm here to help you break free from the drinking cycle and unlock your best health. After decades of gray area drinking, I was fascinated by my own capacity for change. Now I've made it my mission to pay this gift forward by sharing the biggest game-changing lessons from neuroscience to positive psychology to functional nutrition, all so you can take back your power, balance your hormones, use food as medicine, and feel better than ever. Sobriety is just the beginning. Let's heal, thrive, and create a life you love. Let's dive in. If you've ever found yourself making promises to cut back on drinking only to end up right back where you started, you're not alone. We've all been there. That's why I created Breaking Up with Booze, a free guide with the exact same lessons that took me from a daily drinker to over 4 years alcohol free and thriving. These lessons help you work smarter, not harder, when it comes to changing your relationship with alcohol. There's no relying on willpower and no fueling yourself with regret and shame. Just a quick 1-2 punch of facts that break down the beliefs, keeping you stuck in the drinking cycle and gives you on the spot tactics to manage cravings when they hit. If you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Grab your free copy now in the show notes and start making a change that actually sticks, because you deserve to feel your best without the booze holding you back. Today's guest is someone who brings a fresh and empowering perspective to the alcohol-free conversation, especially for those of us who don't quite identify as rock-bottom drinkers, but still feel like something needs to shift. Sally Magee is a Gallup-Certified Strengths Coach and an accredited Sobriety Coach, and the founder of Magee Coaching Solutions, where she supports women navigating gray area drinking by helping them tap into their natural strengths. With a 25-year background in civil engineering and construction, Sally knows firsthand what it's like to thrive in high-performance environments and the quiet ways alcohol can show up as a coping strategy. What makes her approach so unique is how she uses the CliftonStrengths framework to help women rewire their thinking, build self-awareness, and create lasting, values-aligned change, all from a place of empowerment, not shame. I'm so excited to have her here to talk about how knowing your strengths can completely shift the way you think about habits, identity, and change. Please welcome Sally to the show. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Find Myself Free. I have another incredible fellow sobriety coach with us today. I'm excited to introduce Sally Magee. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing? So great to see you.
Yes, likewise. You are another coach that I met in the Sober Hive community, which has been so cool. It's such a great group of people to collaborate with. And you have a really unique take on coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about your kind of personal style of alcohol-free coaching?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I call it strengths-based sobriety coaching. I am a Gallup certified Clifton Strength coach. I've been a certified coach for going on just over a decade, actually. And so I really use the Gallup, kind of the science around positive psychology and using this tool to really help people understand what's right with them. That's the whole premise of the tool is of Clifton Strengths is looking at what your natural talents are, what's right with you versus all of the, all the shaming or the like the old performance assessment model, which was like work on your weaknesses.
Mhm.
This tool is really about working on your strengths and doing more of that. And that's how you reach your potential. So I'm applying that train of thought to the alcohol free journey.
That's very cool, especially since anyone who's even approaching their relationship to alcohol is kind of riddled with shame and fear and a lot of like blame too, like, ah, how could I have done this to myself, right?
hmm
How does this fit into the alcohol-free coaching? Like how would identifying one's strengths better serve them in like going forward with these behavior changes?
Yeah, that's a great question. My premise really is around like using your natural talents, using the assessment to identify what you do well, and then using those talents specifically for your alcohol-free journey. And I'll give you a couple examples. My top strength is called learner. And so it has a curious mindset, is very inquisitive and likes to read, likes to learn, loves the learning process. So if I were coaching someone who has high learner like myself, I would encourage them to not just try to quit drinking and use other people's approaches. I would say, well, do a learning program or do a 30-day course or read some Quitlet books. And so I adapt my coaching style to fit the strengths of the person and really develop their action plan based on their own talents, because that's how they're going to succeed is basically do what you already do well, just apply it to the alcohol free journey. That's one example of learner. That's a pretty easy one to relate to,
Yeah.
as an example.
Yeah. I think that's what I am too. I love the learning process. I'm a total geek, and I think that's why I gravitated to the science-based, uh,
Hmm.
behavior change stuff. It fuels me. It actually is I have to know and understand something in order for it to, like, plant its seed in my subconscious, and then it fully drives my behavior after that. But I've recognized that a lot of my clients aren't built that way. So what's another example of someone who might not be learner based, who's like, I send them these, maybe they've bought the course, but they're like, I can't get through a course, they don't their brains don't work that way, you know?
Yeah, another example is someone with high executing talents, like achiever, for example. So achiever is very goal oriented, very driven to. Um, One might look at someone with achiever talents as having like a lot of certificates or accomplishments or degrees that's going to drive them to achieve.
Mhm.
So for someone with high achiever talents, I would say set yourself a stretch goal. Maybe you've done 2 weeks off before. Set a goal of 30 days and make it a really hard goal that you would want to be challenged by.
Yeah.
So 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or whatever the goal is that's appropriate for that person. And they're going to be motivated by achieving the goal
Mhm.
versus someone who's motivated by learning a process,
Yeah.
right? Or learning the science, like you said, was really intriguing for yourself.
Yeah.
So strengths gives you really what's kind of underlying as the motivations for your talents. And when you can tap into how you're motivated, that's how my clients succeed, is really having those tools
Mhm.
to be really personal and customize their approach.
That's very cool. So when you identify your strengths, does it also kind of identify your weaknesses in a way? Like, hey, these are the ways that you probably won't learn best?
Yeah, so the Clifton Strengths Assessment is formally called Strengths Finder, so some of your listeners might know it under that name. Gives you your ranked order of talents. There's 34 of them. So it gives you all of your talents from top to bottom. So once we get your results, once I would get a client's results, we look at what are their most natural talents or their dominant talents.
Mhm.
And then we can look at what's at the bottom of their list and say, well, these are the things you don't really necessarily do very well.
Mhm.
So let's not try these approaches because they probably don't come naturally to you. So you're not going to be successful in trying to use someone else's tools that aren't gonna work for you, basically.
That's really helpful in understanding. I think not only from a coach's perspective, but also as a person knows, like, hey, don't waste your time with these other methods
Mhm.
that don't come naturally. We want something that is gonna motivate you and that you're gonna get those quick wins, those easy things that you can kind of build on. Cause it can feel like this marathon, people when they're looking at this daunting task of changing their relationship with alcohol, it can just feel like I've tried this before and I've failed miserably over and over and over.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking too, there's so many different approaches out there that if you've tried other approaches and they don't work,
Yeah.
they don't stick for whatever reason, then a strengths-based approach is you're more likely gonna succeed because you
Mhm.
know your talents, you know what you're actually really naturally good at. And so when we can tap into those talents and those strategies, then that's what helps people be more successful a little bit easier.
Yeah. So you had this background before you got sober, right? So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your journey. You were a coach before becoming
Yeah.
alcohol free. Yeah.
I was a gray area drinker, like many of us formerly were, or many of your listeners maybe currently are, kind of struggling with that process. But yeah, I was a gray area drinker, like many people, and it actually kind of uncovered itself through a coaching process. So I am a coach, but I also have a life coach that I work with. And, as life coaches do, she just kind of gently peeled back the onion and realized that, alcohol was getting in my way of being my best self, as, being the best coach I could be. I'm a workshop facilitator also in my day job. So, that kind of cloud of alcohol was just kind of always there. And I just realized through the coaching process that it was holding me back.
Mhm.
And then I did a bunch of Annie Grace's programs. I know you're certified with the Naked Mind. I love that approach.
Mhm.
Love Annie Grace, and really, I would attribute my own sobriety to her programs.
Yeah.
And I got sober. We're actually in my 3-year anniversary week. Just a couple days ago was my 3-year anniversary.
Oh,
So
congratulations. That's
yeah,
amazing. I just hit 4 a couple weeks ago as well. Yeah.
nice. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, the different methods out there, they all have some common themes in them, but, one of them being the belief structure about like, hey,
Mhm.
you have been completely conditioned to drink this substance. And then, breaking out of that, it just feels so counterculture. You feel like, the odd bird out. So, how would using your strengths based approach help somebody who has a lot of fear around? Maybe they're not a bad drinker, right? There's so many people fall into this gray area drinking. How you use that kind of strength based program to like overcome their fears about being like, oh, how do I go about being a normal person and not drink.
Well, one thing that strengths gives you is really some strong insight into your self-awareness, right? So it gives you a name for your talents. It gives you just a language or kind of a foundational understanding of who you really are, true to yourself. And so a lot of people that are, I do coaching that's not oriented toward alcohol-free
Mm.
lifestyle. And a lot of people that come to me for strengths-based coaching, either career coaching, leadership, or executive coaching, just really use the tool for building confidence in their leadership style, really understanding their strengths, give them a really strong foundation of self-awareness. So
That's
I would
really
say, yeah, for someone who's kind of struggling with that, just self doubt as they're navigating the alcohol free lifestyle, someone like that then kind of understands their strengths can be
yeah,
super helpful with building confidence.
that is so key. Yeah, confidence is something that it people want it right out the get-go. They wanna know that there's no risk involved, that they're like, "Oh, if I do this thing, it's gonna work." And I think that's what's so scary about the alcohol thing is they just have so little faith that they can make this shift because, again, it just seems they can't even imagine their lives without alcohol, right?
Hmm.
Again, I love an approach that gives you a structure and a format and like foundations to fall back on. I was reading through your website and you had something called Align. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that is my framework for my 6-month one-on-one coaching journey or coaching experience. And so it starts with is awareness, self-awareness.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I just described as understanding strengths and giving that foundation for how your strengths apply in all areas of your life.
Mhm.
You're going to quiz me on my acronym here.
Oh, I know.
Um,
I love
the,
acronyms.
the
Yeah.
L the L is around limiting beliefs. So is really through the coaching process is really understanding what are those limiting beliefs that might be holding someone back.
Mhm.
Um, the I stands for inquiry. So that's like a deep dive into all the reasons why people drink in the first place and really understanding how to tackle those limiting beliefs through a process of inquiry and curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the G is for, in my align framework, the G is for growth mindset. And that's how we really move forward with a growth mindset and a growth perspective versus a fixed mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you're familiar with growth versus fixed mindset. And then the N is for namaste, is really just a recognition of, at the end of the 6 month journey, it is time to, to be set free. And that's
Yeah.
really namaste as a recognition for, all the hard work that the person has done. And it's a moving on. It's just kind of that final stage in the process when people feel confident in being alcohol free. And sometimes that's, I deliver it as a 6 months package. I have some clients that do a second 6 month package because they're not quite ready
Mhm.
to just continue without coaching. And so it's delivered initially as a 6 month coaching experience. You following
That's
that
really
framework.
cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I love acronyms, and I love structure to things that people can go back to and check in with daily and kind of just be like, okay, where am I at? Where am I at in this? Let's talk about motivation. So, how do you help clients kind of reconnect with the why in wanting to change their relationship to alcohol? Staying
Mm,
staying focused in that regard, especially once they get a couple weeks under their belt. I find a lot of people kinda they feel really good, and then there's, like, this tipping point when they get a little bit stuck. And I call it the point,
mm,
like, the pain of whatever hangover they had, whatever kinda dark moment they may or may not have had that kinda, like, shifted them to motivate them to make the change, that kinda fades. The memory of that fades a little bit, and they think, "Well, maybe I could just have that other drink."
mm,
Oh, it does.
mm,
I feel like the pain of the punishment isn't so heavy-handed right then, and have a big enough carrot in front of them, like a big enough motivating factor. How do
mm.
you what's your approach, like, getting people kind of re-engaged with the challenge again?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think first of all is having a very clear why in the first place. Like when I first set up a coaching engagement with a one-on-one client, is making sure they do have, reason and motivation behind why do they want to quit drinking in the first place. Um, but the second thing I do, which may be similar to your approach, is really have them identify an emotion-based goal. And so
Mhm,
it's not just a black and white drink or not drink. It's how do you really want to feel about the role of alcohol in your life? I have one woman that I'm coaching right now, and she said she wants to feel successful, lighter, happy, and in control. And we're
mhm,
just coming up on her 6 month of her initial package, and she doesn't feel in control. She
mhm,
feels like she's fine without drinking, more or less fine. She's got, a couple data points here and there. Um, but she doesn't feel in control yet. And so I said, well, that's how you've set this goal to feel really in control and you're not
mhm,
there yet. So
mhm.
so I, through the coaching process, kind of revisit that why every couple of weeks as reminders, like, here's why we're doing this in the first place, and to keep
Yeah.
them motivated and have something really clear that's emotion based.
I absolutely love an emotion-based goal. It's definitely part of my coaching too, is connecting with a positive feeling too, because
Hmm.
it pulls them out of that fixation of what they're giving up and starts to focus on 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. How do you wanna feel? And when you, like,
Exactly.
release that neurochemistry, it can be so powerful. I go back to that over and over again in my coaching, just being like, "You need to connect with that future self and believe it's possible." Believing is such a key component here too, because
Hmm.
you can't tell yourself lies that, "Hey, this is gonna be easy. This is gonna, this isn't gonna change your life at all. You're gonna be," and it's like there's a lot of painful changes that go on throughout this process. Um, how do you approach this idea of, like, judgment-free coaching when somebody starts to get into this place of, like, again, just fear, just so afraid of what they're giving up?
Mm. Well, if they're afraid to let it go,
Yeah,
you mean?
and the changes that happen along the journey, you know?
Hmm. Well, I think any prospective client, I would expect them to have some curiosity.
Yeah.
right? And that's usually why coaching clients come to us, is because they know that there's some room for improvement and there's some level of being curious.
Yeah.
So I would try to tap into that curiosity of, and helping them understand that change is hard, right? And that on the other side of change, there's some discomfort that you have to
Mhm.
go through to get to the other side.
Right.
And with with a curiosity mindset, then
Mhm.
that's how you get to the other side, is you have to remain somewhat curious to be able to get through that discomfort and that challenging period, because quitting drinking is hard.
Yeah.
And you do go through things, as you go through a process of learning, and you've got to learn how to do everything without drinking.
Yeah.
And you have to, I mean, I would expect pretty much everyone that comes to me has some kind of curiosity mindset of, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
how I do this. That's why I need a coach.
Yeah.
Right.
What do you think the difference is that coaching really brings to the table for people? Because there's so much free content out there around
Mm,
breaking up with alcohol. There's quit lit books, there's podcasts, there's tons of people on the sober Instagram that are so supportive, and there's so much interesting information. Like, what is the tipping point? I know hiring a coach for me was a huge tipping point of
mhm.
accountability, of showing up and working on it, being really intentional about the work I was putting into this and not letting it just be like, oh, I would like to do that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think hiring a coach, I also hired a coach. She was not a sober life coach, but just a general life coach. And as a coach, I think all coaches should have coaches.
Mhm.
By the way, I think it's so important for the art of coaching to really take you farther as a coach. But really, for clients, it's a depth of learning. So I think coaching brings just a much richer depth of the learning experience and furthers the action. So there's kind of two parts there. You can go really deep with a coach,
Mhm.
in self exploration, and then furthering the action. Like you said, having a coach helps you be accountable. So during the session, as you know, then you're working with the client to establish goals, to establish action items.
Mhm.
And usually people go farther with a coach kind of faster, because you've got that accountability partner. You've got someone helping you develop what are those action items that are going to get you, a little bit closer to reaching those goals, and actions that you probably wouldn't have thought of on your own. And then you've got the accountability partnership with, coming back to the call next week or the week after, and how
Mhm.
did you do toward your progress, right? So it's that check-in process that it can be really helpful for clients. And so it helps them deepen the learning, further the action, get them going, farther faster
Yeah.
than without a coach.
Yeah, I find it's like the linchpin in finally making it a priority, right? Because they can't ignore
Mm,
so much of getting alcohol free is about shifting self-care to being a priority instead of being, letting yourself get to this place where you have to cope with alcohol, right? It's about
right.
staying above your 50% line, and so many of these shifts that we make and that coaches can help you organize and get intentional with and have a structure and a foundation and all this in-depth learning, it puts it to the top of your list. Like, "Oh, that's right. I have to do this." Like, yes, there's all these other things that I've been putting ahead, but now I'm shifting that. I've seen huge huge leaps and in people's growth just by having that appointment on the calendar. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. And it's an investment. It's an investment in the client invests in themselves that way. So
Yeah.
it's like, and it's almost like an automatic commitment when there's an investment piece to it also.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's so cool. And I'm a coach. I have coaches. I have different types of coaches, not just
Mhm.
no longer in the alcohol-free space, but my alcohol-free life coach was also an herbalist, which was so cool because that's now where I kind of full circle ended up is in functional nutrition. And so a lot of what she was recommending to me was like cool herbs and calming things. And I was just like, wow, like it's just amazing. You don't know what you don't know as far as the directions you're going to go with
Mhm.
growth after alcohol is like pulled out of the equation.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I read on your website you were a functional nutritionist in training.
In
That's
training,
really
yeah.
really cool that you took that direction too. Yeah.
Yeah, that I really wanna do this Clifton Strengths thing because I know I'm gonna fall in that learner/achiever category where I love to keep learning, and, I learn best also by sharing and coaching
Uh-huh. By
others.
teaching. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you probably have learner talents up
yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah, and that's what makes it so exciting to keep building it all into my coaching is, like, as I learn something, I'm so excited to share it and, like, apply
Yeah.
in this world, and I'm sure that's how it feels for you too with all the background of coaching that you have.
Yeah, exactly. I love like ending a call and being like, "Oh, there was this podcast episode that you'll love," and that I'd like send them an email afterwards. So I'm definitely a very resourceful kind of coach, like tons of podcast, book recommendations, all kinds of things I love. It just gives me a lot of joy to share that with clients.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I want you to tell us first where people can find you if they wanna know more about, what you do, and then after that, we're gonna do a couple of quick fire it's just a fun way to end the podcast, quick fire round of fun, personal, questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, people can find me. My website is mageecoaching.com. It's my last name is Magee, Magee, so mageecoaching.com. And you can find tons of information there on my website. I have a newsletter that I do. I have a free download that you can, what I call it is aim your talents at your alcohol free goals. So it's actually, if I could share a little bit about this, the download is I've designed it so that you don't need to know your Clifton strengths ahead of time because there is a cost to take the assessment.
Mhm.
So what I did is I boiled it down into the four what Gallup called domains of talent. So there's just four to choose from. So there's executing, strategic thinking, influencing, and relationship building. So in the download, there's an assessment where a self assessment basically, so you can kind of categorize where you think your talents lie. And then there's action steps for all of those four categories. And so it's a worksheet you can work through figuring out your talents on your own and then taking some of the action items to develop a custom plan. So I give that for free on my website. Um, and then, of course, there's the one-on-one coaching that we talked about. And then I also do a group coaching course. 3 times a year, I do an alcohol-free challenge and group coaching course. So that's coming up for dry July this year. And then I'll do another one for sober October. So, and then dry January, of course.
That's
Seems
really
like the
cool.
logical one.
I hope people go check out that free resource because people like quizzes, people like
Yes.
anything that's, like, self-identifying, I always say it's, like, kinda horoscopy stuff, or, like, when you were a teenager and you do, like, the quizzes in the magazine. I'm this
Uh-huh.
type of person, I mean,
Yeah.
anything that lends itself a positive spin and gives it a little structure for you to, like, move forward with. I mean, I actually interviewed a coach last week who was into human design, which
Oh,
again
yeah.
and so she does her coaching through, like, the lens of human design, and I'm like, there is so many flavors of approaches to this. You just have to find what one works for you, that resonates for you, that fuels you. And this is
Mhm.
definitely one that has piqued my interest, and I'm definitely gonna go do an assessment. Um, okay, so quick fire round. So what are your top 3 Clifton strengths?
Learner, which I mentioned, achiever, and responsibility is my number three. So responsibility delivers on commitments and follows through on what they say they're going to do.
Excellent qualities for a coach.
Yes,
Okay, coffee or herbal tea?
coffee all the way.
Oh, okay. I'm a herbal tea girl myself. Okay, what is the most underrated joy of living sober living?
Underrated. Well, I don't know if this is underrated or not, but what my like favorite thing about sober living is no brain fog
Yeah.
ever. Like zero, no hangovers, no brain fog. It is like the mental clarity is the best.
Amazing. Well, you are doing something right because I am 44 and brain fog is a factor for me, even though I'm alcohol free. I'm like, that's why I'm so curious about all the hormone stuff and the functional nutrition because I'm like, every now and then I'm just like, why did my brain slow down? What happened? Yeah. And when you have a podcast and you need to be like sharp,
Yep,
but for most people, you do a lot less brain fog when you're alcohol free. Um,
totally.
all right, what is the best book you've read this year?
Oh, the best book I read this year. I'm reading The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober right now.
Oh my gosh, Catherine Gray. That's an
Yeah, that's a good one. Yep.
all-time favorite. I
Yep.
always recommend people listen to that on Audible because she reads it and her voice, she's British and she's funny and you get to hear like her, her way with words is she's a phenomenal
Yeah.
writer. So I love that book too. What is a non-negotiable part of your daily routine?
Hot tub in the morning.
Hot tub.
Um, yeah, we have so I live in Palm Springs, which is hot in the summer. So summertime, I have to not do the hot tub. But for the most part, generally, I get up, I get my coffee, I get my dog, and I go to the hot tub. The dog does not join me in the hot tub, but he comes out and does his business.
Yeah.
And then just lays down next to the hot tub. And that is how I start my morning. Yeah,
Wow.
non-negotiable every day. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. Okay, one word to describe midlife for you.
Possibilities.
Ooh, I like that. That's great. Last one. What's on your vision board right now?
Retirement.
Yeah.
I have a few years to go,
Yeah.
but thinking about like the future and the vision board, like eventually,
Yeah.
retiring from my day job and and I do have I have another company that I run that is workshop facilitation. So my vision is cutting down on the facilitation and the workshops, like in the in person, and doing more coaching. So I'm kind of in that transition of doing more coaching, and so the vision is coaching in retirement. Shall put it
Yeah.
that way. Yeah.
Yeah. More purposeful, aligned work.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so fascinating to me how many people get alcohol free and want to switch into paying this gift forward because it does feel like the best kept secret. It's just like everybody should be doing this, you know?
I know. I wanted to like scream it from the mountaintop, like, quit
Mhm.
drinking. It's the best thing. It'll change your life.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, anyone who will listen.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so opposite of what people think it is. It's completely
Hmm.
opposite. Once
Yeah.
once you just get enough perspective and time under your belt, every fear that you had about it is completely false. And you're like, this is the best life. This is the best life there is possible. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Totally agree.
Well, Sally, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your incredibly cool approach to alcohol-free, coaching here. And I hope everybody goes to visit you and does that fun strength finder because I think just knowing that alone will really give you some new ammunition to approach your challenge of changing your relationship to
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope they do too. They can go to Gallup.com and do the assessment on their own anytime. I also do a free discovery call, so I'd be happy to, if people want to look me up and do a quick discovery call once they have their strengths, I'm more than happy to do that as well. So,
I love it. All right.
yeah.
Thank you, Sally. And until next time, I'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks again.